All right, so you're gunning for that Microsoft AZ-104 exam? Perfect. You are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to build your game plan. No fluff, just the straight-up, actionable steps you need to get certified.
Look, just deciding to go for it is half the battle. And it really doesn't matter if you're a seasoned IT admin, a cloud engineer, or a SysAdmin making that big jump into Azure. This certification, this is how you prove you've got the skills to do the job. So think of this as your complete blueprint. We're going to cover everything from your first day of studying all the way to that final moment when you click Submit on the exam. Okay, no more waiting. Let's dive in.
First up, your mission briefing. Before you can conquer this exam, you've got to know exactly what you're up against. So let's break down the fundamentals.
So what even is the AZ-104? Well, it's Microsoft's official stamp of approval. It validates that you have the core skills to be a real Azure administrator. That means you can implement, manage, and monitor a company's entire cloud environment on Azure. It's a critical role, and this cert proves you're ready for it.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the numbers. You're going to face about 60 questions, and you've got 210 minutes on the clock. The magic number you need to pass is a 700 out of 1,000. But here's the best part, and I really mean this. There is no negative marking. So what does that mean for you? It means you answer every single question, no matter what. Even if it's a wild guess, you take a shot. You literally have nothing to lose.
And don't think this is just some memorization test. Nope. They want to know if you can actually do the work. So yeah, you'll have your multiple choice questions, but the real test, that comes from the case studies and, most importantly, the performance-based labs. We're talking about hands-on tasks where they literally drop you into a live Azure portal and tell you to complete a task. This is where all that hands-on practice really pays off.
Now, listen up, because this is a game-changing pro tip. I want this to sink in. You have access to the official Microsoft Learn documentation during the exam. I'm serious. It's not cheating. It's an open book test. Knowing how to quickly search the docs for PowerShell command or a specific setting can absolutely be the difference between a pass and a fail.
So, you know the rules of engagement. Now let's deconstruct the core content. The exam is broken down into 5 main areas, or domains, and understanding how they're weighted is the key to focusing your study time.
Take a look at this. The two heavy hitters are Identities and Governance and Compute Resources. Each one is about a quarter of your entire exam. That's half your score right there. Then you've got Storage and Virtual Networking, which are pretty close behind. And finally, Monitoring rounds it out. Your study plan absolutely has to reflect these percentages.
Let's start with the biggest piece of the pie, Identities and Governance. Think of this as being the bouncer at the club door. It's all about control, managing who can access what. You'll need to master Microsoft Entra ID, which you probably still call Azure AD, plus things like users, groups, and especially role-based access control, or RBAC. This is the absolute foundation of a secure Azure environment.
Next up, another heavyweight, compute. This is where your applications actually run. It covers everything from your bread-and-butter virtual machines to scalable web apps using App Service and even managing containers at scale with Azure Kubernetes Service. You'll also need to know how to deploy all this stuff automatically using code, like ARM templates or Bicep.
Now for storage. Every application needs to store data, right? This domain covers how Azure handles all of it. You've got to understand the different types of storage, like when to use blob storage versus file shares, and, critically, how to secure access to all of it with things like access keys and SAS tokens.
Virtual networking is how all your resources talk to each other and to the outside world. Think of this as building the highway system in the cloud. You'll be creating virtual networks, or VNets, to keep things isolated, and using network security groups, or NSGs, which are like your basic cloud firewalls that filter traffic.
And finally, monitoring and maintenance. Look, it's not enough to just build cool things. You have to keep them healthy and resilient. This section is all about using Azure Monitor to watch performance, setting up alerts so you know when things go wrong, and making sure you can recover from a disaster with Azure Backup.
Okay, you know what's on the exam. Now, how do you actually learn it all? Let's assemble your study toolkit. We're going to look at the right tool for each specific job on your certification journey.
First, let's talk about Pluralsight. Think of this as your core curriculum. It's the backbone of your study plan. Their AZ-104 learning path is perfectly structured to cover every single domain. My advice? Start with their skill assessments. That will immediately show you where your weak spots are so you can focus your energy right where it's needed most.
Now for your deep dive tool, Udemy.
Courses from instructors like Scott Duffy are fantastic. They're great for getting a different perspective and for seeing really detailed, hands-on demos. If you're a visual learner who needs to see concepts in action in the Azure portal, this is a must-have.
Next, your free review tool, YouTube, and specifically John Savill's technical training channel. The guy is a legend in the Azure community. His AZ-104 Study Cram video is an absolutely incredible high-level review, perfect for listening to on your commute or whenever you need to reinforce concepts.
But how do you know when you're truly ready for the test? That's where Whizlabs comes in. It's your exam simulator. With hundreds of practice questions and over 100 hands-on labs, this is the best way to feel the pressure of the real exam and pinpoint any remaining knowledge gaps.
Finally, we have maybe the most important tool in your kit, Microsoft Learn. This is the absolute source of truth. It's the official documentation the entire exam is based on. Plus, and this is huge, their free sandboxes let you get hands-on practice in a real Azure environment without ever needing a credit card. You need to use this, a lot.
With the right tools in hand, you just need a plan. So let's lay out a manageable 8-week master plan to take you from 0 all the way to certified.
Here's a roadmap that works. For the first 2 weeks, you're going to master identity and governance. Then, for weeks 3 and 4, tackle compute and storage together. Follow that with 2 weeks on networking and monitoring. And then, those final 2 weeks are absolutely critical. They are dedicated entirely to practice tests, lab simulations, and reviewing your weakest areas over and over again.
All right, you've done the work, you've followed the plan, now it's time to conquer the exam itself. So let's talk strategy and logistics for the big day to minimize your stress and maximize your score.
On exam day, time management is everything. For case studies, read the questions first, so you know what you're looking for in that wall of text. Then, fly through the multiple choice questions you know, and budget at least 45 solid minutes for those hands-on labs. And remember, if it doesn't go your way the first time, don't sweat it. It is a tough exam. You can regroup, review what you missed, and retake it in as little as 14 days. You've got this.